Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. Let's jump right into today's explainer. Implementing multisig mechanisms in Solidity. If you've been following along in our track on designing multisig wallet contracts, you know that in our previous lesson, we mapped out the high-level functional design patterns. Well, today, we are stepping into the shoes of chief architects. We're officially transitioning from theoretical design to drafting the actual concrete Solidity code blueprint for a multisig vault. We're essentially taking those abstract concepts from the whiteboard and translating them into hard-coded mechanical locks and levers for a smart contract. It's time to turn that theory into cold, hard logic. Here is the schematic index for our build today. First, laying the data foundation. Second, propose, confirm, and execute. Third, inspecting the build. And finally, preparing for access control. Let's start with section 1, laying the data foundation. Think of the transaction struct as the vault master ledger. It meticulously records exactly where funds should go. That's your to address, how much value is moving, the data payload, a simple Boolean executed flag, and, crucially, an approvals count. That count is what keeps track of exactly how many keys have been turned. Now, to manage state without wasting your hard-earned gas on expensive, clunky loops, we need very specific storage components. We're looking at our transactions array, our approvals mapping, that handy approvals count, and the required signature threshold. Keeping your state predictable and cheap is the name of the game here. That approvals mapping acts as our internal checklist. It's just a simple true or false flag keying a transaction ID and an owner address, which guarantees an owner can accidentally or, maliciously turn their key twice on the exact same proposal. All right, section 2, propose, confirm, and execute. With the foundation poured, it's time to wire the security buttons that actually make this vault operational. The whole system hinges on a beautifully simple 3-step mechanism. An owner proposes an action, the rest of the group confirms it, and finally someone executes the terminal change. It's kind of like getting a group of friends to agree on pizza toppings, just backed by cryptographic security. First up, the propose function. Calling this drops a brand new, unexecuted transaction straight into our array and immediately emits an event. It basically sounds the alarm, gracefully alerting the other owners that there's a new proposal on the table. Next, the confirm function. This safely increments our approvals counter while strictly checking that mapping we set up earlier. It guarantees absolutely no duplicate votes. One owner, one vote per transaction. Fair and square. And finally, the execute function acts as the main lock. It verifies that we've met the required threshold before performing the low-level external call. It's literally the final turn of the key that opens the vault door and executes the community's will. Moving to section 3, inspecting the build. Now that the blueprint is drafted, we need to inspect it using a modern, AI-assisted vibe coding workflow. By handing our trusty robotic intern a highly specific starter prompts, like targeting Solidity 0.8.x and strictly enforcing owner-only confirmations, we get a deterministic, compile-ready shell. It saves us a ton of time so we can focus on the high-level architecture instead of fighting with syntax. But remember, code is only as good as its logic, so you absolutely must run these specific tests to verify the state transitions. Does it compile cleanly? Is the proposal stored properly? Do duplicate confirmations actually revert? And does execution strictly require that threshold to be met? Because we really have to ask ourselves, what happens if a nasty vulnerability like reentrancy sneaks into that execution call? If our AI assistant gets even a little bit sloppy with the external call, these unit tests are the final safety inspection. They will catch those fatal flaws way before we ever think about deploying to mainnet. Finally, section 4, preparing for access control. Let's see how this all builds into our larger track on wallets and account abstraction. Right now, we've just wired a basic onlyOwner modifier onto our functions. It acts exactly like a strict bouncer checking a VIP list at the vault door. If you aren't on the list, you aren't getting in to propose or confirm anything. But those are pretty coarse checks. So in the next lesson, we're going to replace that simple bouncer with an extensible, fine-grained role management layer. And we're going to do it without changing the underlying transaction semantics we just built today. I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. How will separating the proposer role from the executor role completely change your vault's dynamics? Imagine the possibilities when literally anyone can suggest an idea, but only a specialized, highly trusted counsel can
can actually turn the execution key. It's a total game changer.
To dig into the actual code snippets from today's blueprint, run those test checklists yourself, and explore more advanced Web3 engineering, head over to forge.college. Thanks for joining me on this Explainer by Forge College, and as always, happy building.